You're listening to the Wall Street Ledger. Welcome to all of our listeners. Our featured company is Telson Mining Corp. Telson Mining Corp currently traded shares on the Toronto Venture Exchange and ticker TSN, as well over-the-counter Pink Sheets ticker SOHFF, as well over the Frankfurt Exchange ticker TSGN. Joining us today to speak a little bit more about the company's projects and operations is Ralph Sheeran. He's the president, CEO, and director. Ralph, thank you for joining us here at the Wall Street Ledger.
Well, thank you very much, Nicholas. Happy to be here and happy for the opportunity.
We've had a huge number of requests about the company. So if you could talk about the current projects and operations at the company.
Sure. So Telson has two projects in Mexico. One is an operating mine called Campo Morado. The other is a mine that's under construction called Tabahueto. Campo Morado is located in the state of Guerrero, and Tabahueto is in northwestern Durango. Okay, so let's talk a bit about Tabahueto first, because it's really our flagship project. It's a project that we have had in the company for quite some time, and we're able to move it forward with exploration and development to come up with a really solid resource and reserve over a 20-year period. Now, that sounds like a long time, but most people should understand that the mining markets, as an exploration company, you can only move things forward when you can access capital. So that was probably about 7 years out of that 20 when we actually could access capital and move the project forward. Nevertheless, it's a very good project. We control about 80% of a mineralized district, and we've concentrated our exploration along one major structure, and there's about 7 or 8 more that we know are there and we need to follow up on. But on this one structure, we spent about $18 million in exploration, development, drilling, came up with the resource. The resource is quite high grade. In fact, Tabahueto will probably be one of the 4 or 5 top highest grade gold producers in Mexico when we get it into production late this year. Not the most gold, but one of the higher grade guys. So we have about just over 3 million tons of reserves. That gives us around a 10-year mine life at 1,000 tons per day. That's the size of mine we are building, and it's about 50 to 60% complete in the construction of it. We have just completed financing that will allow us, the initial stage of that financing allow us to restart the construction and move it towards completion towards the end of this year. It will be a gold producer. 65% of the value is in gold. It will be a low cost producer. We'll be producing gold at probably around $750 per gold equivalent ounce. And so, we'll be making a very good profit on that mine once it's into production. I suspect that it will produce, our cash flow modeling suggests it will produce in the $25 to $30 million free cash flow once we have all of our debt paid off. Okay, so it's a good project, and the exploration potential is large. We feel that once we get healthy enough to have a drilling budget again, that we'll be able to bring new resources and reserves in to expand the size of this project, possibly double the size from 1,000 to 2, and maybe even up to 3,000 tons per day over the next 2 to 5 years. So that's sort of the plans we have for Tabahueto. If we switch to Campo Morado is at this moment, it's a zinc mine. We've been producing zinc in Campo Morado since we acquired it with a small 6-month window of shutdown. And Campo Morado is the 6th largest zinc producer in Mexico. We've been producing around 2,000 tons per day and have had a really decent last 6 months. We've had some difficulties at the project back in 2019 where we had to shut it down for 6 months, and we brought it back into production and have slowly increased and solved all the issues. So it's producing steadily now, and we have some very good potential to increase our revenues at Campo Morado by increasing our recoveries of precious metals as well as base metals. We have embarked on an aggressive campaign to figure out this metallurgy. The gold and silver are difficult to recover. If they're refractory in refractory minerals. So most of the gold is tied up in the pyrite, and we are hoping to be able to solve those problems. There's been some testing conducted by the former owner of the mine that went through first phase on 2 different technologies. One was called the Leachox process. A group out of the UK called Malaguin Mineral Services has developed that. That process is in operation in several mines in Africa, very successfully recovering refractory precious metals. And they also tested the Albion process with Corp group out of Australia with good preliminary results. So we are going to be moving forward with second phase testing on at least these 2 technologies. And in fact, one of them we've signed up to get a pilot plant on site to do at least 3 months of extensive test work. So if we are successful with this, we're going to really increase our revenues at Campo Morado. In fact, we think we could turn Campo Morado into a silver mine because the reserves and resources, I should say resources at Campo Morado. We don't have reserves because Nearstar never can put together a 43-101 economic report, pre-feasibility or feasibility. They didn't need to report those. For us to call them reserves, we have to do that. Anyways, nevertheless, a large resource base with a lot of gold and silver. So our resources there are about 60 million tons. That gives us well over a 20-year mine life at current production rates. And the precious metal content is quite large, about 128 grams per ton silver on a global basis. And the gold is I think it's about 1.5 grams per ton. So there's a lot of precious metals there that are currently going into the tailings facilities. And if we can solve that metallurgical issues with these technologies, we'll start to recover a lot of that. There's one more opportunity there with the existing tailings facility, has about 3.2 million tons of tailings in that and stored there. We're not using that one at this point in time. And from the production records, that has a considerable amount of gold and silver in it, maybe up to 280,000 ounces of gold equivalent with just gold and silver. And it's got copper and lead and zinc. So this pilot plant we're bringing on site is going to test a microfine grind to improve the base metal recoveries, as well as to potentially produce a pyrite concentrate that we could sell that would be gold rich, or that we can push through these leaching technologies or forced oxidation and leaching technologies to recover the gold and silver. So that's our hope there. We hope to be able to really increase our recoveries, which would increase our revenues and make that mine a much better producer. So, that testing, everything will be carried out over the next 6 months. So late this year, we'll have a very good idea on the success of that. And if it's successful the way I feel it could be from reading all the literature on these technologies and talking to the owners of the technologies, then we could really turn Campo Morado into a very profitable operation. Right now, it is profitable. We're making about $800,000 US on a monthly basis operating profit from the operation, and with current zinc prices. And so, it's doing reasonably well at this point in time. Okay.
Give us a better feel of the current infrastructure within these regions as it pertains to drilling, exploration, etc.
Sure. Well, Campo Morado is quite good for infrastructure. We're near the town of Arcilia. We have a grid power right to the mine. It's like a 5-hour drive from Mexico City. So Campo Morado infrastructure is good. I mean, the state itself is known as a difficult state to be working in Mexico for security reasons, but we have a decent presence there, a history there that we're operating fine, and we expect to continue to operate fine. Tabahueto, it's slightly more remote, and by Mexican standards, it would be considered a remote project. I'm a Canadian, and exploring in Canada, if you can drive to your project in 6 hours, we don't really consider that remote. And we can do that at Tabahueto. But that's probably the reason that Tabahueto has never been mined before. The 2 reasons: complications of ownership, but also remote. It's considered a remote project for Mexico. But we can get all of our drills, all of our equipment in there, and we have all of the mining equipment on site now, or the vast majority of it, probably 80-90% of the mining equipment necessary to build the mill and get it up and running is already on site. So it's not perfect, but it is the location of it makes the logistics not perfect, but not really bad either. Okay, I guess that's the best way I can explain it. Okay.
Talk about the private placement and where those funds will be used.
Sure. So the equity private placement is the first stage of the larger $25 million syndicate funding that has been put together. The private placement we had some fairly sophisticated participation. So the Exendo Banco in Mexico participated, Endeavor Financial participated. Endeavor Financial is a large mining finance group out of the UK. And then we that's the private. Let's just talk about that. So we closed about $10.8 million in Canadian in the private placement. Just announced that closing on Tuesday, and we are now reinitiating construction at Tawaweto with that money. That's not enough for us to complete it, but we're going to get it going. And we have about maybe another 3 weeks to a month of paperwork and filings to get access, to complete the $12 million loan with the Exendo Banco. The Empress streaming deal is in tranches. So as soon as we sign that deal, and that's expected fairly soon, this week or next week, that frees up a $2 million tranche that we will have access to immediately. The second tranche will close alongside the Exendo Banco $12 million. And that $12 million plus the $3 million second tranche Empress goes into an escrow account that is kind of overseen and managed by Trafigura, so that they know that money is there to complete construction of Tawaweto. So we have all the money we need. Our budget looks like about $13 million. It includes a 15% contingency. So we've got the money necessary once we close with the Exendo Banco and Tranche 2 Empress to complete the project. Okay?
Yep. Let's switch gears a bit here and talk about this current board and management team at the company.
Well, we have a reasonable board of directors, but it's worth saying that with this money comes along other members that will be appointed to the board, and it's going to be a lot of very qualified people. We're bringing on 2 more technical guys with lots and lots of experience. David Rhodes himself from Endeavor is going to take a senior position, probably chairman of the board of the company. That will all be formalized as soon as we sign up with Empress streaming deal. So, we're going to have a fairly sophisticated board of directors, and we're also going to be bringing in a corporate governance director that will help us get our corporate governance fully taken care of and up to what is required for this type of a company. So if we look at the board of directors right now, I'm the president CEO. I'm a professional geologist. I've had 35 years or more now in exploration geology, but I've also have 35 years of managing junior public companies in senior management roles. Then we have Roberto Guzman, who is our major controlling shareholder and a director of the company. He's in Mexico. He runs funds that were primarily involved in real estate, tourist real estate in Mexico. And he became involved in our company back in 2015. First time he entered into a mining deal, and it was based on the strength of our Tawaweto project. We have Rory Godino on our board of directors now, a senior securities lawyer, and heavily involved in the investment banking side of the legal securities. Enrique Margalif is our director in Mexico. He's taking a more senior role in management. He's done a fantastic job of getting the company back on its feet down in Mexico over the past year. Then we have a director, Yao's son, who represents a Chinese group. Yao will be actually stepping aside to make room for the new directors coming in. And then who have I left out? Sometimes. How many have I said so far? Was that 5 or 6?
6.
6. Okay, that's it. That's our board of directors.
Oh, awesome.
So the 3 that will be coming on will be 2 technical and 1 that's a really solid corporate governance lawyer. Okay.
A well put together team at hand. To that end, what really sets the company apart from the other venture and over the counter mining stocks?
Well, I think that Telson's had a couple of rough years, and so our stock price got beat up pretty bad. It looked like the whole thing was going to crash and we were going to lose our projects. So we're, in my opinion, very undervalued. Of course, every CEO is going to say that about their company, but we have been, because we haven't been marketing over the last 2 years. We haven't had the funds to do that, and it was really a rebuilding and getting the company out of its problems to be able to move forward. So that, I believe, is the main thing that investors should look at. We are undervalued. We have a large upside potential, not just with production from both our projects, because having 2 mines in production in Mexico should give us a better valuation than we have right now. But the actual exploration potential of both of these projects allows for organic growth, significant organic growth over the next few years. So we expect that we will get Telson to be a mid-tier producer in Mexico over the next 1 to 2 years as we get Tabahueto ramped up and into production. Okay.
Where do you see the company positioned in, let's say, about a 2 to 3 year period?
Well, 2 to 3 years time gives us a lot of time to get the reserves up in both of these projects, expand production. I think we'll be, I would venture to say that we could be a 75 to 100,000 ounce of gold producer a year plus base metals. That would be where we are targeting to get to. That puts us into a very much higher league of producers, and the economics at Tabahueto are really very good. So this translates to a lot of free cash flow, a lot of extra money to go out and potentially find new projects. We're very open to bringing in new projects. So I wouldn't see us being able to do that for another year or so. Once we get both of our projects up and running and making our free cash flows. But that would be our goals, to try and build this company up into a much larger producer than just the 2 mines.
So Ralph, in conclusion then, why invest in Telson Mining?
Well, any number of reasons. Near-term producer in precious metals and in base metals. So we've got some added comfort of knowing we've got different commodities. We have a market that is embracing mining right now that seems, a lot of people are talking like we're in the beginnings of a mining super cycle. And, I've been through a couple of these before. And when the markets start to go in these super cycles, it's a fun time. I mean, it's busy, and there's lots of money around, and very easy to grow the company under those circumstances. So that's if everybody's correct, and all of us miners are optimistic people, but the market players are starting to sing that tune as well. So I think that it's a perfect time to invest in mining. And then all the gold bugs are looking at the amount of debt that's being accumulated worldwide, and the devaluations of the dollars because of that, and gold is a safe haven. So there's any number of reasons that I could come up with that Telson is a good buy, and especially at these lower share prices where we still haven't realized our full upside potential based on our projects, and NPV of our projects, and the future expansions of those projects.
So an undervalued, exciting investment story at hand. Ralph, Sharon, thank you for joining us here at the Wall Street Ledger.
That's my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Our featured guest has been Ralph Sharon, President, CEO, and Director at Telson Mining Corp. Telson Mining Corp currently trades shares on the Toronto Venture Exchange and ticker TSN. over-the-counter pink sheets, ticker SOHFF, as well over the Frankfurt Exchange, ticker TSGN. Thank you for joining us.